Alright, let's try this again. We are live, ladies and germs, and we have yet another case of a race that was total shit in the first half, but picked up in the second half. And some people are even calling it the best short track race of the year. That's not really saying much, to be honest. And but one thing that is a fact is that the closer has returned, and that's the last thing that the rest of this cup field wants to see. That much I can tell you. But this will probably be a quick review because not a whole lot going on as far as news of the week, and not really a whole lot to say about this race. So let's get into it. This is the fuel. What's happening, ladies and germs? This is the Packer Man, and welcome to tonight's edition of The Fuel, where tonight we're going to be talking about the 2022 Federated Auto Parts 400 from the Richmond International Raceway. And a mixed bag of a race tonight, because the first half of this race was total fucking trash, and the second half was actually pretty good. Well, let me put it this way. The first two stages were a nothing burger. Nothing really to write home about. It wasn't until the third stage that things actually started to pick up. But that's starting to become a theme in the Cup Series the last couple races. Maybe not Michigan. Michigan was more the beginning and the end. That was kind of crap. It was the middle that was actually good. But there have been a few cases over the last couple weeks where the first two stages of a race have been total dog shit, and then the third stage actually ends up being pretty good. I don't know why that is, but we shouldn't have to wait to the third stage to watch a good fucking race. You know, how about we have a race where a large majority of it is actually good? Can we have that for once? I don't know. But, you know, it is what it is. I mean, honestly, the third stage saved this race from being a below average race, because let's be honest here, if we just judged it off the first two stages, this was a fucking garbage race. But that third stage and how competitive and how good the racing was actually saved it from being below average. So, I'll put it to you that way. But like I said, not much to really talk about this week, so let's just go ahead and get into the news of the week. And there's not a whole lot of news to talk about there either. Alright, so not much in the way of news. As usual, we start with the ratings from the previous week. Michigan pulls in 2.621 million viewers on the USA Network, which was apparently up from last year's race on NBCSN. So seems like Michigan, or it seems like NASCAR, at the very least, is trending in the right direction in terms of the ratings, and has been all season long. And then we had a couple of silly season news breaks this week. Noah Gragson, who has been in the Xfinity Series Junior Motorsports number 9 car for the past couple of years, is going to be moving up to drive the number 42 car in 2023. Cat, get out of the way. Come on. Seriously. He's going to be driving the number 42 Cup car for Petty GMS in 2023. Cat, get out of the frickin' way. So this was announced earlier this week. I mean, Gregson's been doing pretty good in the 9 car, especially this season, although he did have a dumb shit moment at Road America. But he's getting an opportunity to drive in Cup next year, and he's actually been doing pretty decently in that 16 car on a part-time basis. So will they be able to bring that 42 to prominence in 2023? Probably not, but it'll be interesting to see if he does a better job than Ty Dillon has done in that car this season. And then lastly, Bubba Wallace. No, not sings. God. Sings. No. He signs a contract extension to remain with 2311 for the foreseeable future. I mean, this one was pretty obvious. Cat, get out of the... Jeez. I mean, it's pretty obvious. I mean, if you looked at Bubba's performance over the last month or so, including almost winning at Michigan, I mean, this was a no-brainer for 2311. I mean, he has definitely improved quite a bit over this season. Some people say, well, he's still 19th in points. So fucking what? I mean, when you look at how he's been doing the last month on a variety of different tracks, he has improved quite a bit. I mean, what else do you want me to say? And that's pretty much it as far as news of the week is concerned. Nothing else really of note this week. So without further ado, let's get into the race review itself. Alright, so this is the 150th edition of the Fuel. Reached a little bit of a milestone this week. And we're reviewing the Federated Auto Parts 400 at the Richmond Raceway. Of course, title of the episode, The Closer Has Returned. Considering that Harvick just won 2 races in a row. So, after leading just 13 laps before that. And now all of a sudden he has 2 wins and is suddenly considered a championship contender. Shows you how quickly things can change. There were 2 cars that had to go to the rear of the field, which was Harrison Burton and BJ McLeod for adjustments. So the stages for the race broke down like this. Stage 1 was 70 laps, Stage 2 160 laps, Stage 3 170 laps for a 400 lap race. So Stage 1, of course, 70 laps. Kyle Larson started from the pole. Chastain took over the lead on lap 1. Then we had our first caution on lap 3 when Tyler Reddick spins in turn 4. Reddick was pretty much a non-factor for the entirety of the race. In fact, I think he was a lap down for like 80% of it. So very, very off day for Tyler Reddick in this race today. Chastain leads on the restart. Truex begins backsliding a bit to 8th. Hamlin gets by Larson for 2nd. Chastain has a 2.5 second lead on lap 35, and it's Hamlin and Chastain yet again. Keselowski, running 4th at this point, was trying to challenge Larson for 3rd. Kyle Busch smacks the wall in turn 3 but keeps going. Blaney and Logano battle for the 6th position. And Chastain wins Stage 1 over Hamlin by a small margin. Pretty nothing first stage. The first stage was a nothing burger. I mean, it was green for a lot of it, but not really much happened. So now we come to Stage 2, which was 160 laps. Chastain leads the start of Stage 2. Hamlin tries to put the pressure on Chastain, but washes up the track in turn 1. Logano takes advantage to jump to 2nd, and then challenges Chastain for the lead and gets it on the outside for a first pure lead change on lap 81. Hamlin gets by Truex for 4th. Larson gets by Chastain for 2nd. Blaney gets by Truex for 5th. Hamlin gets by Chastain for 3rd. Cole Custer starts reporting power steering issues. And then Chastain also started reporting an issue with the right rear tire. Cat, can you please quit? Why do you... This fucking cat, man. Why do you gotta bother me at the worst possible time? I'm trying to do a review here. So, go lay down. Come on. Quit. Quit. Anyway, Blaney gets by Chastain for 4th. Ty Gibbs and Kyle Busch were battling hard for the all-important position of 16th. So they were kind of roughing each other up a little bit. Green flag stops began on lap 125 with Logano pitting from the lead because tires were so important. Kind of similar to what we saw back in the spring. Stenhouse stays out long and Logano passes him for the lead on new tires. Almirola was up to 5th on lap 150. But then Stenhouse misses pit road and hits the 19 Truex. Probably should have been called for a commitment line violation. But he still gets penalized anyway. We'll get to that in a minute. Truex with a left rear tire going down, question mark, and it turned out to be no. Stenhouse came back around to do his pit stop, but gets penalized for too fast entering. So, kind of reap what you sow there. Or what could have been a promising day, and that was all on him. Typical Stenhouse fucking things up. Hamlin and Buescher kick off the second round of stops on lap 172. Logano cycles back to the lead. And Bell gets penalized this time for a crew member over the wall too soon. But this is not the last we would hear from Bell. Oh no. Ty Gibbs was on pit road with smoke under the hood, engine failure from the sound of it, so he was done for the day. And at this point there were 13 cars on the lead lap, and fourth on back was 11 seconds or more back from the leader. Yeah, the second half of this second stage was pretty dog shit. There's a big group of cars at the bottom half of the top 10. It was mostly lap down cars. Truex passes Logano to get back on the lead lap. We have a battle for 5th between Almirola and Blaney. It was a pretty hard battle. And Logano wins stage 2. Again, pretty much a nothing burger. Everyone comes in for service and Larson wins the race off pit road. So now we come to stage number 3, which was 170 laps. Larson leads to start stage 3, but then we immediately get our second caution on lap 241. Kyle Busch spins off turn 4 after contact with Chastain. It looked like Chastain was trying to give Ty Dillon and the 42 car some room going into 3, because the 42 was on his inside, and Kyle Busch kind of came down into the 1 a little bit, so it was mostly a racing deal there. Truex and his crew were bitching and complaining about it, even though they weren't involved in the wreck. And I pretty much said to him, dude, shut the fuck up and drive the fucking car, and stop worrying about shit that you weren't involved in. You see, Ross Chastain, over the course of this season, has exposed most of the Cup field for being nothing but a bunch of prima donna, bitch-made motherfuckers. I mean, it's absolutely fucking ridiculous. Shut the fuck up and drive the fucking car like you're paid to do. I mean, you're getting paid, what, hundreds of thousands of dollars a year to drive that fucking car? Shut up and do your job. Anyways, the big winner in this caution was Christopher Bell, who took the wave around at the stage break and is now firmly back on the lead lap and can come in and get some fresh tires. And then he nearly fucks it up a little bit later up. Larson leads on the restart, Logano gets a better jump and gets the lead on the restart, and then Christopher Bell causes the third caution on lap 251 when he catches the apron in turn 3 and spins. But he recovers and gets back going again. So we got split strategy on pit stops. Logano leads on the restart. Briscoe slides up into Larson in the battle for second. Sissy, go lay down. Go. Kyle Busch with a great restart up to 7th. We had 3 wide for 7th between Busch, Hamlin, and Elliott. This is when it started to finally get good. Harvick gets by Briscoe for 3rd, and Chris Buescher is also up to 4th. And at this point, I was like, battle's finally starting to develop here in the final stage. Again, we shouldn't have to wait this fucking long for the good battles to develop. We have a battle for 2nd between Larson and Harvick. Larson gets drop kicked back to 7th. So Harvick is up to 2nd and Buescher up to 3rd. We have a big battle in the bottom half of the top 10. There was like 6 cars fighting at the bottom half of the top 10. Harvick starts closing on Logano for the race lead. Hamlin gets by Briscoe for 4th. Blaney kicks off green flag stops on lap 294. Logano pits from the lead on lap 296, and then Ty Dillon gets penalized for a commitment line violation. Hamlin was going to stay out a little bit longer. Initially, we thought they were going to do a one-stop strategy, but then they pit from the lead on lap 305, so I guess they just wanted fresher tires at the end of the race. Logano cycles back with the lead. Briscoe has to pit to put out a fire and look like in the area of the exhaust pipe. So that's starting to become a bit of an issue. And I guess the team said that there was some rubber buildup in there that eventually caught fire. Harvick tries to close on Logano for the race lead. Buescher just 1.3 seconds back of the two of them. And I'm like, wow, we're about to have a triple threat for this race lead. Hamlin gets by Elliott for fourth. Harvick starts putting major pressure on Logano for the lead, and Buescher closing in on both of them. And then Harvick is able to get around Logano for the lead for a second pure lead change on lap 334. Then Buescher and Logano start fighting for second among the lap cars. And Buescher kicks off the final round of stops on lap 341. Harvick comes in from the lead on the next lap. Hamlin and Bell finally come in on lap 353 a little bit after them. So they have 12 lap fresher tires. Buescher, now in second, is less than a second behind Harvick, and he starts challenging for the race lead among lap cars. But eventually it starts falling back as he burned up his rear tires. Elliott gets by Logano for third, Hamlin gets by Logano for fifth, and then all of a sudden, Christopher Bell comes out of fucking nowhere and just starts bull rushing towards the front in the closing stages of the race. Gets by Elliott for third, Hamlin gets by Elliott for fourth, and then Bell gets by Buescher for second and was 1.7 seconds back with 4 laps to go. And all of a sudden, coming to the white flag was half a second back. I guarantee you, if there was one more lap in that race, Bell probably would have gotten to Harvick. But Harvick just barely holds Christopher Bell at bay to go back-to-back after 65 races. After going 65 races without a win, he wins 2 in a row. But he even said himself that he had been forgetting to shift on the front stretch, and that allowed Christopher Bell to get a little closer than he probably should have. But be that as it may, he still held him off for the victory. Goes back-to-back and is now considered to be a championship threat in the playoffs, with 2 races remaining in the regular season. But once again, the first 2 stages were Garbo, and the third stage was good. We need to get to a point where most of the race is good, not just the second half. Alright, so stats and awards for this race. It was a 400 lap race, broke down 70, 160, 170. Overall lead changes. We had 16 overall lead changes in this race, which was actually 1 more than last week. But it seems like we just cannot get any quality passes for the lead. We had just 2 pure lead changes this week. We had 3 last week. Like, where's all the fucking pure lead changes going? I don't know. I mean, at least we had fewer cautions. We had just 3 caution flags this week. We had a lot of green flag racing, which I do appreciate. We actually had more green flag passes for the lead than last week. We had 3,559 green flag passes, which comes out to an average of 9.6 per lap, which is actually a little bit lower than last week, but we had more green flag laps this week than we did last week. Lap leader award goes to Joey Logano. He led 221 of the race's 400 laps, but wound up finishing 6th after basically the weather changed. I mean, it got really cloudy and it had a negative effect on his car. Star of the race goes to Chris Buescher for obvious reasons. I mean, had a great run, finished 3rd. Probably would have liked to win, to blow up the playoff field once again. But underdog driver, driving for an underdog team, and somehow comes home with his 2nd podium of the season. And of course, we're going to road course next week. We saw what he could do at Sonoma, so it'll be interesting to see if he can pull that same kind of magic next week at Watkins Glen. Reject of the race, Ricky Stenhouse, for absolutely ruining his own day, missing pit road and then speeding on pit road. I mean, pretty much fucked up his team strategy. I mean, why is Stenhouse in the Cup Series? I mean, I don't know. He just does not impress me whatsoever. Alright, race results and point standings, and we'll get out of here. Kevin Harvick with the win, led 55 laps. Christopher Bell 2nd, Chris Buescher 3rd. Then you had Denny Hamlin in 4th, Chase Elliott 5th. Nice bounce back after 2 weeks of not so good finishes. Joey Logano actually led 222 laps but it doesn't really matter. I mean, he still finished 6th, which, I mean, when you lead that many laps and come home with a 6th, yeah, he's not going to be happy about that whatsoever. Truex in 7th, Eric Almirola in 8th, Kyle Busch 9th, and Ryan Blaney rounds out the top 10. Which leads us to the point standings and how they look with the playoff picture. Chase Elliott locked into the #1 spot in the playoffs right now. And I think he only needs a few points next week at Watkins Glen to clinch the regular season title. And he could get that after the first stage. So there you go. Top 10 are locked into the playoffs. The other ones, because of the fact that we have so many different winners, they're not locked in yet. So you have Alex Bowman at plus 107, Daniel Suarez at 89, Austin Cindric at plus 71, Chase Briscoe at plus 64, and you have Kurt Busch, who has been out due to injury the last month, and hopefully he'll be back next week at Watkins Glen. We'll have to wait and see. And he does have a medical waiver. Ryan Blaney holds the final spot in the playoffs by 26 points over Truex, and then pretty much everybody else, you know, they're over 200 points back from there on down. A win, and only a win, is going to possibly get them in. So there you go. NASCAR standings with F1 points. It was just the Truck Series this week, as well as the Cup Series. So here are what the points look like. Chandler Smith won the race in a dominant fashion. John Hunter Nemechek finished 2nd. Zane Smith didn't really do a whole lot, finished 9th. So the points, as far as the F1 standings are concerned, have tightened up quite a bit. Zane Smith leads by 11 over John Hunter Nemechek. Chandler Smith has gained a little bit. Still a full race back, though. Ben Rhodes has done nothing once again. Ty Majeski, Stuart Friesen, Christian Eckes, Carson Hocevar, Grant Enfinger, and Corey Heim round out the top 10. Then you see the red names from 14th on down. That means that they have been mathematically eliminated from championship contention, as there are only 5 races left in the Truck Series season. Cup Series. Not really a whole lot changes. Elliott gained a few points on Chastain. They're still the only 2 drivers over 300 points. And you have Kyle Larson, who gained some points today. Then you have Blaney, Logano, Christopher Bell. Kyle Busch actually drops to 7th in points. Tyler Reddick was nowhere today. Then you have Truex and Hamlin running at the top 10. Then you have Byron Harvick, who's still 12th in points despite getting back-to-back wins, which shows you how far behind he was in the points. And you have Suarez, Kurt Busch, who's injured at the moment, Alex Bowman, Chase Briscoe, Austin Cindric, Bubba Wallace. Those are the drivers over 100 points, and Eric Almirola and Eric Jones round out the top 20. As for my final rating for the Federated Auto Parts 400 at Richmond, I mean, the first 2 stages were dog shit. It took until the 3rd stage to finally get something going, and I'll be honest here, Christopher Bell, he really made those final couple laps really interesting when he was doing that bull rush at the end of the race, and damn near got there. So I would say the 3rd stage saved this from being a mediocre race. So I'm going to give it a 5 on the fuel gauge. So a 5 out of 10 average race. I mean, let's be honest here. The first 2 stages were garbage. The 3rd stage is really what saved this race from being a nothing burger. So there you go. But that's going to do it for this week's edition of The Fuel. Like I said, not a whole lot going on this week. Not really much to talk about this week in terms of the race. Not much to talk about in terms of news stories, other than a few silly season things. Just a short episode this week, you know. And honestly, I'll welcome that after the past couple of months have been, you know, over an hour, and in one case, almost 3 hours. So, I'll welcome a short episode this time around. But next week we're going to Watkins Glen, and hopefully we'll see some good racing there, because we've just been seeing some mid-level racing the past couple weeks in terms of the quality. So, hopefully we'll see a banger next week. I don't know, but we'll see. But that's going to do it for tonight's edition of The Fuel. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time, this is the Packer Man signing out. See you later. Thank you for watching tonight's video. Be sure to like and subscribe, you jackweeds.